boy. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I can though. Oh, man. Okay. That is recording. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Raising Strong-Willed Kids Summit. My name is Andrea Miliani. I'm your host today. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about a functional medicine approach to ADHD. And we have Dr. James Greenblatt. And Dr. Greenblatt is a pioneer in the field of integrative medicine and has been treated patients since 1988. After receiving his medical degree and completing his psychiatric residency at George Washington University, Dr. Greenblatt completed a fellowship in child and adolescent psychiatry at Johns Hopkins Medical School. He currently serves as the Chief Medical Officer at Walden Behavioral Care in Waltham, Massachusetts, and serves as an assistant clinical professor of psychiatry at Tufts University School of Medicine and Dartmouth College School of Medicine. Dr. Greenblatt has lectured internationally on the scientific evidence for nutritional interventions in psychiatry and medical illnesses. He is author of 7 books, including Finally Focused, The Breakthrough Natural Treatment Plan for ADHD. He is the founder of Psychiatry Redefined and an educational platform dedication to transformation in psychiatry, which offers online CME approved courses, webinars, and fellowships for professionals about functional and integrative medicine for mental illnesses. Welcome, Dr. Greenblatt.
Thank you, Andrea. Good to be with you.
Yes, thank you so much. It's great to have you as well. Why don't we start with your definition of what ADHD is and what the current treatment plan is for ADHD?
Sure. I mean, I think, over the years, if we go back 100 years, we've changed the name for hyperactive behavior disorder kids based on, what the current understanding was in medicine, from brain damage to minimal brain damage. But I do believe now that science and my understanding is ADHD is a medical disorder. It is kind of a neurobiological changes in the brain that affects behavior, and it affects impulse control and attention. So I think it's important that everyone understands that it's just not a behavior problem. It is a medical disorder that affects behavior. And our current model is really just symptomatic band-aids with medicine. And I'm not opposed to medicine, but the goal of my work over many years is to look at underlying causes so we can avoid medicine.
Exactly. And what is functional medicine?
Well, functional medicine is a term that, probably came about 30, 40 years ago. And it just was a field of medicine that was starting to look at the root cause rather than just taking the Band-Aid, the pill for the symptoms, what might be causing the underlying illness. And it's psychiatry has been slow to understanding functional medicine, and recently we've started to help clinicians understand that. So if we look at the underlying cause for ADHD or a hyperactive child, it could be a nutritional deficiency, it could be something in the environment, it could be an allergy, it could be a whole host of things. And that's our goal.
Is ADHD, they say too, is it genetic? I mean, is it genetic?
Yes, it absolutely has a kind of genetic, what we call vulnerability. It does run in families.
Okay, cool. Awesome. That's great. And how do you use functional medicine to treat it? Like how do you what it is, but how do you use that to help treat ADHD?
So, the traditional approach might be with medication. So that would be prescribing Ritalin or a stimulant. And the functional medicine approach would be, doing blood tests and urine tests and to find out, is there a nutritional deficiency? And so based on the testing, we would then treat. And the testing could involve, there could be a vitamin deficiency of, let's say, zinc. One of the common things we see is high copper, and which is
Really?
from the pipes in the water. We also see high lead. So if we understand that these are contributing factors, then we can treat them. And with high copper, we treat with zinc. With lead, we use chelating agents. But both of those things contribute to ADHD.
Really? That's really interesting. That really is that's interesting. Um, are there things like that parents can do on their own, or should they work with a functional medicine practitioner?
It's hard to find functional medicine doctors focused on mental health or ADHD. There are some pediatricians now that are really starting to learn the material and treat it. The book that we wrote, Finally Focused, was written for parents. So it was written for parents to understand how to begin looking at ADHD as a functional medicine model. And
Yeah,
when
really. I know. I think
helping.
I think a lot more pediatricians now are trying to get a little bit of feel on what it is. Because I remember my youngest, he's 20 now, and he was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 7. And my pediatrician, it came in school, started it, and then I had gotten the evaluation from school, and I took it to my pediatrician, who actually right away he referred me to a pediatric neurologist. And I mean, he was actually really, really good. I mean, neurologists, I guess, seem to be pretty knowledgeable with that. Is that a pretty big thing too today?
Yeah, a lot of the pediatric neurologists treat the ADHD. And again, the model would be, with medication, symptomatic treatment of medicines, but they do understand the illness as a medical condition that affects behavior. And as a medical condition, we have to treat it. And medicine is one option, and the nutritional approach is another option that can be helpful. Sometimes we have to use both.
Exactly. It's so funny how they call ADHD, and they'll say like it's where you can't focus, it's lack of focus, which I wonder sometimes, is it really like lack of focus? Because I mean, there's something called that hyper focus. And I
Absolutely.
think that like it is, I think it's not that they can't focus, it's being able to focus, I think, on things that like they are interested in versus things they're not interested in. Would you agree or
Yeah, no, I heard a term many years ago. Someone suggested changing the name to variable attention disorder, not attention deficit, because absolutely they can hyper focus on things that they're motivated for. So they create their own dopamine and neurotransmitters, but they're not able to focus on things that they're not motivated for. So they might fail one class and get an A in another class. And that's not the usual pattern.
that's true. I mean, I see that. I mean, I see that with my son. I mean, even growing up when he was younger. I mean, I see like him with computers. I mean, he loved his video games.
Right?
And he can like when it came to that, he was like so hyper focused in that. but when it came to schoolwork, it was a big struggle. You know,
Very,
and
very
like in
common.
math.
This variability in attention is really common, and different environments, um, you would see different levels of attention and focus. So one-on-one, these kids do better versus large groups. So the environmental context is really important as well.
Awesome. That's really good. Um, why aren't most healthcare practitioners trained in this kind of functional medicine? Like, it's not that out there. Like,
I
there
think
don't seem to be a lot of.
again, for like chronic illness, diabetes and obesity, and that I think the medical community has understood lifestyle, nutrition, stress all plays a role. I think psychiatry really has lagged behind, and they really haven't aggressively looked at some of these nutritional deficiencies or root causes for some of these behavior problems in children and these ADHD as well.
I was just wondering too, because there's a lot being said now about gut health. And like, how do you feel? Is that like in related to like functional medicine, like the gut health and about, with the gut brain connection and how like
Absolutely. In one of the chapters in the book, that was one of the areas that we have to test for, because, and it's not every child's different, but there's some individuals that would have what we call dysbiosis and significant gut problems that could contribute to ADHD. And we can test for some of the bacteria that produces some of these chemicals. We can test for yeast and candida overgrowth. So the gut is a very important, um, has a very important role in the treatment of ADHD. Not for everyone, but with testing, we can determine who would benefit from that treatment.
almost like I always think of it as what they say is like what we are, what we eat. It's like,
Absolutely.
when you think about it, it's kind of true because if we're, then it's like the way your gut, if your gut's unhealthy and it's the connection of the brain, you know, I guess you feel a lot better when you get that healthy.
I think diet is critical for our kids with ADHD, and some of the processed foods and high sugar does affect the bacteria in the gut, and then it can create symptoms. We've seen it, and chronic use of antibiotics also disrupt the gut bacteria, and that can affect behavior in some kids.
You know what's funny? Some people I've read and some people said to me a lot of times with the sugar, like I would think like that's a no-no, like I would like that. But they say that sometimes giving them a sugar at this, depending on certain times, is actually good. But something is supposed to be like if they need like that energy. But I think that I thought sugar is like,
Yeah, I think the refined sugar, or particularly the sugar sweetened beverages with 13, 16 teaspoons of sugar in some of these drinks, I think the research has actually demonstrated that it's much higher incidence of ADHD based on how much sugar these kids are eating. I think, natural sugars or carbohydrates in fruits
like
may
fruit
be beneficial, but
or
the
them.
processed refined sugar, I don't think we can argue that that can be helpful.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely would agree with that. And how can like low dose nutritional like lithium be used to treat ADHD?
Well, lithium is actually a mineral, and it's a nutritional supplement that
Okay.
I've been using in my practice for 35 years.
What is
Most,
it like? Is it a pill or?
yeah, it's just it's a pill. But most of us think of lithium as a medication, as a pharmaceutical that we use at for bipolar disorder, and that is
Yeah,
a
that's right. There is. That's right. There is something
lithium
that. Yeah.
carbonate, and that's very high dosages, sometimes 1,500, 1,800 milligrams, and it can help people with bipolar, but there are side effects. So nutritional lithium is a couple milligrams, 1 or 2 milligrams, And this is natural. It's in our environment, in the tap water. And over the years, research has demonstrated that the amount of lithium in the tap water that we drink, and it varies based on state to state and where in the world that you live, that there's different rates of psychiatric illness based on how much lithium is in the water. So what we found is some of the really aggressive, irritable kids with ADHD, they respond dramatically to low dose lithium. And again, nutritional lithium, not prescription lithium.
Like, what are some examples of like
Well, I can
like,
give you
or
hundreds of cases. You know, the kids that get kicked out of preschool, the kids that getting in fights, and then show that remorse. And oftentimes, the traditional medicine stimulants don't help, and then giving them a couple milligrams of nutritional lithium seems to really have profound benefits on impulse control and decrease that irritability.
really? That's really interesting. I never knew anything about that. That's really, really interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Some good pointers here. What would you want to like tell everybody, like in the way of tips and some strategies that can help parents with their kids, I mean, with their behavior, and
Yeah, I think the
and
most important thing that I can share with parents is one, understanding that ADHD is a medical disorder. It's not your child or your spouse or anyone else just trying to irritate you. That there's really differences in how they can kind of sustain their focus and impulse control. And so understanding the illness, reading about it is the most important thing. And then if you understand it, you're going to be more empathic and better help support your child. If it is a medical illness, then you want to look at biological interventions. I'm not opposed to medicine if your child needs it, but the approach that we took in Finely Focused and what we teach doctors is looking at some of these underlying causes, the mineral deficiencies, the vitamin deficiencies, the gut, and even understanding nutritional lithium.
awesome. Yeah, that's really, really good. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Greenblatt. You have I think you were going to be offering a free gift to the viewers of today.
There's a webinar that I did on ADHD that goes into some of these approaches, looking at integrative and functional medicine for ADHD. So I will be able to share that webinar with your listeners.
Awesome. That would be great. And great. What else do we want to say? No, that would be awesome. And just how can anybody like reach out to you or get a hold of you?
Sure. The webpage is my name, jamesgreenblattmd.com.
Right.
And then our educational program, where we have courses, is psychiatryredefined.org.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Well, you're pretty close to me. We're not that far away. I'm over in Putnam County, New York, and you're in Massachusetts, right?
Okay, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. We're pretty close. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Greenberg.
Okay,
And
Andrea.
I really appreciate it, and great, really great having you, and really great information. I learned a lot myself. Thank you. Thanks,
Great. Have a
Dr.
good day.
Greenblatt. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Have a wonderful day.